Hello, everyone, and welcome to another wonderful week of the next issue. I'm your host, The Power Trip, and this week, steel yourself as we get ready to take on one of DC's most famous heroes, John Henry Irons, also known as the Man of Steel. Now, for those of you who don't know, John Henry first became famous during the widely popular Death of Superman arc. Or actually, to be more particular, it was around the time of the reign of the Superman. You see, during the battle with Doomsday, Superman and Doomsday's battle actually managed to tear down, well, several buildings in Metropolis. And one of these was a construction site where John Henry was working at, and Henry, looking to help Superman out, picked up a sledgehammer and was going after Doomsday before he could actually make it to the battle, of course, which at this point, while he was a, good, strong man and everything, still being a normal human going up against Doomsday, it's probably best that, as luck would have it, the building collapsed on him and buried him. Didn't kill him, but buried him. Which, like I said, in hindsight, seeing as how Doomsday probably would have ripped him in two like a piece of paper, this was probably a good thing for him. But fate has a funny way of doing things nonetheless, as after the battle was over, Superman was dead, and these other Supermen were starting to pop up everywhere, and no one knew if it was actually Kal-El come back to life or what. John Henry managed to rise from the ashes, or debris in this case, to take on a steel suit of armor and fight for the people of Metropolis in honor of Superman. Now, one of the things they touch base in the Reign of the Superman arc is that each Superman introduced in this kind of took a little aspect of Superman or Clark Kent and really kind of embodied that. And for Steel, it was Superman's soul. John Henry was really more in touch with the kind of man Superman was at his core. And that's what made him such a wonderful character, wonderful hero at first. Over time, as Superman came back to life, John Henry came into his own instead of just being a man that was dedicating himself to Superman to being his own hero. Now, it turns out John was also brilliant in engineering, thus, being able to make this working steel suit of armor that, shot out spikes. The hammer was designed to, be sturdier than your standard sledgehammer and actually worked in correlation with the suit, so to speak. His origins actually would begin with a company named Ameritech, where he helped design some weapons there. And, of course, like any good corrupt business, they decided to turn that around and use them for evil intentions. So John Henry's beginnings of getting on his own started off with him fighting a lot of his past and evil corporations, and it began to branch out from there, whether it was Ameritech or later on Luthor Corps. He was always kind of fighting the everyman battle against these big corporations, or even in some cases gang battles. He would eventually rise up to become one of the think tanks for the Justice League, right alongside Oracle and Batman. Now, I'll get into more of this next week in the article I do on everything that involves Steel. But I'm giving you kind of a taste of this hero here this week, just to really get things going, because this guy's really. For the 90s, you got to realize in the 90s they really wanted to push that everyman aspect. You yourself could become a hero. You saw it in Kyle Rayner. You saw it with John Henry Irons. You saw it in a lot of characters they introduced back then. And it really kind of stepped out there and gave you that extra, sense. Here's all these godlike beings and people with all these powers, but you yourself could become one of those characters. Now, with the New 52, they haven't changed a lot with him. He was still working as an engineer, and he did still have things that he created being used not in the way that he wanted them to be used, and thus, because of which, he managed to don the suit for Steel, which has been modified and changed several times in the New 52 to become more like what he had pre-New 52. But in today's era, he has stepped up a lot quicker to get back to that role and actually has helped fight alongside Superman in some very epic battles and has actually been, once again, a huge member of the Justice League, or side member, I should say, of the Justice League, is that think tank again. And even stepping up into a role that you would not normally have seen in the New 52, since they like to change everything around, and it's become the love interest to one Lana Lang. Yes, you heard me right. Superman's ex is now John Henry Irons' current love life. But Lana's not like you remember being in, say, some TV shows or even pre-New 52. She is a lot more, or she grew up to be a lot more of a tomboy, which was what she was at the core in Smallville, but she kept that a lot more in the newer books than what she did previously as she got older. She was the one that moved away first from Clark and, showed him like that they're going on two separate paths, and she has to find her own path, and became really independent and strong on her own without ever really having to be that support character. And her and John Henry Irons' relationship has grown through this and actually has become a very huge staple for in the Superman books as of late, especially if you're following the Superman Wonder Woman book. But once again, this is something for you to tune into next week for the article that's going to be covering a lot more on Steel as we celebrate every bit of history this guy's got, including a few alternate reality takes I think you'll enjoy. I'll see you next week for the next issue.